Everybody, I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Weed from the Winnipeg Free Press. Together we are Kenny and Rennie. This is the Kenny and Rennie post-game show, the last game before Christmas, and I kind of feel like I need to decide with a game like that if I'm going to be, Santa Claus, if I'm going to be in a bit of a giving mood with my analysis of the Winnipeg Jets, or if I'm going to be a little bit grinchy on this one. Let's bring in Ken here. He seems to need something here. What's up, Ken? Hello. I'm not sure what's happening with Ken. Seems to be frozen, or maybe I'm frozen. Either way, I'm just going to have to march on in this situation here. What's going on? Ken, we can't hear you. Your mic is out.
Sound is no good.
Sound
I don't
is
think
no
you have the
good
mic.
at
It's
all.
one.
Oh, my goodness. Well, hey, this is a good start to the Christmas show. Let's get that plugged in here and see what we can do with it. There we go. No sound.
Good to see you, though. And
No
thanks,
sound.
folks, for joining us. It's
Excellent.
holiday edition. Holiday
There we
edition of the
go.
Kenny and
You
Rennie
got
show.
me?
Check 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go.
There we go. I'll just remove myself. Sorry.
We're already live, but let's play the music. Let's play the music again, start this off, and let's just all pretend that this never happened. Here we go. Oh, hi. Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Weed from the Winnipeg Free Press. Together we are Kenny and Rennie, and Christmas came early for me as I got a mic at some point in this. Ken's gift to me was the gift of sound, and it's the gift to all of you folks. And okay, our last show before Christmas, and I need to decide, as you may have been able to hear from that, whether I need to be grinchy with my analysis for the Winnipeg Jets, or whether I need to be a little bit of like a Santa Claus type giving type character. So why don't you hop in my car, and you'll find on the Toyota opening drive, the Jim Pattison Toyota on Region opening drive, which one of them I'm going to be. Hop in, let's wind her up, and let's get going here. One of these things that belie my take on the Winnipeg Jets not being able to come back in games. Now, I think the analysis has been pretty good so far. 35 games in, you're basically in a situation where finally the Jets are starting to do something like that. They pull it off in this game. So a lot of people are going to want to look at this and say down 3-0. They come back, they tie up that game. There's a lot of reason to be, a lot of things to be happy about, a lot of things to be optimistic about. I think at this stage, there's a lot of cognitive dissonance that is involved with walking away from a game like this and thinking that things are okay. Start to this game is nothing you want to write home about. They do come back in this game, and they send it to overtime. I was going to say this on the third play, the third goal for the Winnipeg Jets. That should tell you exactly why the Utah Mammoth are where they are in the standings. They're capable for being up, and they're capable of being down, right? In that situation where Morgan Barron is, you may be asking yourself, how does Morgan Barron get wide open like that? I can't tell you the answer to that question. All I can tell you is the defenseman that was supposed to be there is nowhere in the area code. I don't know what he's doing up ice in that situation. It's dangerous. This is another kind of gift like the Winnipeg Jets got in their last game against the Colorado Avalanche. By the way, Jared Bednar in that last game talked about, what a boneheaded mistake that was made by his team in that situation. This is another one of these. These are goals served up on a silver platter for the Winnipeg Jets in this situation. Now, that second goal, no doubt, the Winnipeg Jets getting out grinding. They're doing the right things, right, to come back and make that a 3-2 game. I'm saying it. The 3-3 was an early Christmas present. The third goal by the Winnipeg Jets, an early Christmas present from the Utah Mammoth to the Winnipeg Jets. This is a gifted point to the Winnipeg Jets in this game. And at that stage, what I'm looking for from a team to have any kind of, things are turning around and things are on the up and up is, if a team is going to gift you that, you got to take it further. And what I felt that I saw was a little bit of an exhale, a little bit of a fall back on their heels after they scored that goal in that game. Let's just get this to overtime kind of, not a winning mindset, let's just hold on and get a point here kind of mindset. Hey, you want to play that game, you are giving a point to the Utah Mammoth, at least 1 point to the Utah Mammoth, who you are chasing in the standings. And I felt like after that moment, the Winnipeg Jets kind of checked back out in this game. It ends up burning them in overtime. And no matter how you want to look at this, an earned point or not, this is another point up on the Winnipeg Jets that the Utah Mammoth go. And that's a problem because of where the Winnipeg Jets sit right now. I saw that. Be the Grinch, someone says. This is just you're not in the territory when you are going into this game tied for last in points in the NHL. There's just not a situation by which, and I talked about this, touched on it the last show, the reality that most of these teams are showing. I mean, like the fire drill that is happening in Toronto right now with what's happening in that city. Just the moral victories, they're long gone. The Winnipeg Jets in this game, if you want me to take a look at it and say, okay, because some of you want to hear Rennie say, yeah, there you go. They're almost back to the blueprint. Here we come, blah, blah. And you couldn't say that at this stage because the Winnipeg Jets have been nowhere near consistent enough that I could say that and expect it to happen the next game. I already got burnt by that a couple shows ago. I got burnt by that after the loss, after the Ottawa Senators loss, after their win over the Washington Capitals, where I said, that was a reason to believe in that they were building. And then they came out and absolutely laid an egg against the St. Louis Blues. Some of you are saying, oh, they kept it close against the top team in the league in the Colorado Avalanche. I saw a game in which the Colorado Avalanche they got up. They knew what they needed to do. They held on, walked away from 2 points with that game without breaking much of a sweat, I don't think. So if you're the Winnipeg Jets, you prove me wrong in that situation by coming out and running over the Utah Mammoth, a team that is, not is up, down, up, down. You got to catch them and make them be down on that night. Slow way to start. 2 goals on their first 3. I won't even mention the name anymore, but I had someone give me the old, oh, well, can you tell me with 100% certainty or confidence that Eric Comrie, that they would have gotten away with a point in that game if Eric Comrie was in net? I can't say that with certainty, but you can't say it either, that it was the other way. And if you're going to give me the old standing tall, he shut the door after 3 kind of, excuse for Connor Hellebuyck, he better not be putting up a .818 save percentage in the game if you're going to try and tell me that Connor Hellebuyck got them that point in that game. So listen, you're heading into the Christmas break. It's better than nothing coming away with 1 point in this. But if we are being honest with ourselves, this stretch of hockey coming right up to the end, including this game, is reason to doubt that the Winnipeg Jets are going to put things together, not reason to believe some kind of turnaround is around the corner. And let's be honest with ourselves. I know the organization is kind of putting forth that brave face, and I know a lot of fans are putting forth that brave face, but come on, we're 35 games in. I mean, you need to see stretches of games where the Winnipeg Jets do that to believe that they've got something going forward. It's not a period. It's not even one game. It's not, stretches of 9 minutes in a period and things like that. There were definite times in this game that the Winnipeg Jets were getting outskated and the Utah Mammoth were moving the puck at will. I see a team that can push. at some points of the game. And when they push, they do look good. I see a team that can capitalize on mistakes the way that they did in that third goal. But what I keep saying in that situation is those are things that are not putting the game in their control. If I'm waiting for the other team to make mistakes, and that's what I need to win the game, I'm not taking the game by the throat and winning it. I don't like the chances of winning games over and over and over when you're reliant on the other team making boneheaded mistakes. And I don't like your chances when you spend a good chunk of the game being outskated. Someone sent me a message earlier on, and my response was, about how they were playing. And my response was, the Winnipeg Jets make every team they play look really, really fast. That was no different on this night. And that for me is the Jim Pattison Toyota on Regent opening drive. And running out of time here, but this December, it's time to Toyota at Jim Pattison Toyota on Regent. Lease a 2025 Tacoma 4x4 SR5 truck from just $116 weekly for 64 months at 6.59% with $7,699 down and a $1,500 accessory credit. But hurry. The offer ends December 31st. Visit Jim Pattison Toyota on Regent for a test drive today. All right, the Grinch has had his turn. Time to bring in Santa Claus, folks. And the man who has long ago gifted the best music in the business. Here comes Kenny. Protect the anonymous here, Ken, but I just got an angry note from Jay Bell, your former colleague at the Winnipeg Free Press, saying someone sent you a note. You can't utter the name Jay Bell on air. So it was Jay Bell I was talking to, who clearly wants me to broadcast. I don't know. Maybe I should just dial him up on the phone and hold this to the microphone.
No, let's get him in here. Send him a link.
Well,
send him a link. He's got a lot of thoughts.
He's got a lot of thoughts. Jay, since you're watching, send me your email and I'll send you. You can hop into the show here. We'll turn this into a good old Christmas kitchen party. My guess is Jay will not be a Vittorio man like you and I are not reaching. But hey, did you see yesterday on the broadcast the pink and gray striped tie that I was talking about? How'd that look, Ken?
Buddy, I have to tell you, I was at my in-laws' 50th anniversary dinner last night. I did not see your decked out suit, but I know it was darn good. See, I could have just sat here and lied and said you looked unbelievable. I know you did, but I can't. When your wife, I can't lead the listeners astray here. I'm sure it looked damn great.
When your wife or your significant other, which I am in this podcast world that we live in, asks you how they look,
I trust you. I trust that it was amazing.
You looked amazing.
It was amazing. I trust it was amazing.
You didn't have to tell people about that, and yet here you did.
Well, anyways, we're here for honesty.
Yet people know, they can see. This is the contrast thing. Bring that down off the screen for a second. This is the contrast. The people who have my back out there saw me yesterday
I have your
on
back.
Hockey Night in Canada and know what I looked like then, and they know what we look like now. They know what a Vittorio Rossi man looks like. And they know that if they want to look like a Vittorio Rossi man, they head on down to Vittorio Rossi on Corden Avenue. Walk in, loudly proclaim Kenny and Renny sent you, ask for Frankie and the boys, and they will do you up right. Ken, the Grinch had his turn at this. Are you feeling saintly? Are you feeling?
Oh, buddy, no, I'm not.
Or what do you got?
No. The first period was a lump of coal worthy by the Winnipeg Jets. I think we heard it from Adam Lowry in the intermission on the broadcast. We heard it from Scott O'Neill after the game, and we heard it from you, and you're going to hear it from me. I mean, this is. I'm sorry. Impressive comeback, sure. 2 goals in 25 seconds or whatever the bang Dennis Bayak special was. That is noteworthy for a team that has struggled to come back in games. Sean, we've talked about this. That sort of late game magic has not been there. It was there today, but You cannot start a game like that under any circumstances. I understand it's a tough time. Everyone is ready for the break, but Sean, this is an inexcusable start. We talked about this both games in Utah last year. I attended one of them and covered it. Mike covered the other one. Jets had 2 terrible games in the Delta Center last year. When you come into a Central Division matchup and you have lost 2 games to start a road trip that you needed 4 of 6 on, probably in order to have any chance of making any headway, and you have 0 points in the bank, you cannot sleepwalk through a period of play. I'm sorry, there is no excuse for that, and yet that's what we saw. I mean, it's this is the most baffling Jets team that we have covered for me for 15 years, and Sean, for you, I know it's been a decade. So
Yeah.
It's nuts. There are, I mean, again, normally, some teams surprise you. We get it. Some teams you know what to expect. We knew it was a tough go out of the gate. 2015, the Jets made a run, snuck into the playoffs, pushed the Anaheim Ducks, and then the big brother pushed back. There have not been many seasons. There's been no season like this one where the expectations were sky high and the results have not matched. I mean, some folks can argue 2019, but Sean, 2019, the Jets were in first place in the Central for 70 games essentially that year, right? So, and then they collapsed down the stretch, lost first place, lost the chance to play a wild card team, and then got knocked out by the St. Louis Blues on their way to claiming a championship. So I get it. I mean, the power of positivity folks are going to say, hey, the St. Louis Blues in 2019 were in as precarious a position as the Winnipeg Jets find themselves going into the break. Well, part of that is true, but the other part is this team has been so wildly inconsistent. Sean, you shouldn't be talking about inconsistency at game 35.
Yeah.
The issue for the Jets is there's been no area of consistency since the 9-3 start. And quite frankly, the 9-3 start, we talk about fool's gold a lot, Sean, with other teams. We thought, oh man, this can't be fool's gold, can it? Even though the underlying numbers aren't good, even though the special teams are winning games along with Connor Hellebuck and a top line that's been out of its mind. Well, I mean, we've got our answer now. That 9-3 start was fool's gold. And, part of that is to do with the ability to play their system. Now, their inability to get to their system through 35 games is a major knock, on the players. And you can say personnel doesn't fit the system. That's fine. You folks can say that the Jets have shown it in a couple of games where their system has been perfect against, a good team like the Washington Capitals, but you can't have one good game and think that everything is going to be fine. The Jets have had snippets of games that have been okay, against, 45, 50 minutes against Colorado here, 42, 45 minutes against Dallas there, but they just haven't been good enough. There is no silver lining here. It's not a lost season, but the Jets have to go home during the break. And again, first piece of advice, and they don't need to hear it from me. They already know it. Unplug from hockey for a few days. But when you come back, you better have looked in the mirror and asked yourself what you can do better, because there are too many passengers on this Winnipeg Jets flight currently, pun definitely intended. And I know it's not from a lack of caring. I know it's not from a lack of trying, but a lot of guys need to play a whole lot better. And if those players can find it in themselves to get things turned around, then the collective will be better. But if that doesn't happen, Sean, we think it's been a long start to the first 35 games. It can go south pretty quickly here when you look at what the Jets are facing coming out of the break.
Oh, it's gone south.
Frankly, I know it's already
south.
It's
gone south since the beginning of November.
2 months.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But again, this is a team that still feels like it's in striking distance of the playoffs. Well, now it's going to be 7 points. So this is a team that has to go on a heater, and they've shown no signs of having a team that can rip off 5, 6, 7 in a row like they have in the past when they've been a wagon, which was not that long ago. Anyways, there's a lot to dig into here. And again, I'm not here to be a double Grinch, but we're trying to talk in reality here. The Jets have had a couple of guys had brilliant individual seasons, but as a team, they have not been nearly good enough. They know it. You know it. I know it. The fans know it. Scott O'Neill knows it. Kevin Cheveldayoff knows it. Mark Chipman knows it. So what are you going to do about it? First, as a player, what are you going to be doing about it? Scott O'Neill is going to go home, and after enjoying some family time, including his mother's 92nd birthday in Kingston, he's going to be searching for solutions, just like he has been for the first 35 games. Kevin Cheveldayoff's been looking at this for a long time. He knows he's got to make a move. He didn't want to make a panic move, but you come out of this break with the same roster, it's hard to imagine things going differently. It just is. I mean, that's just where we're at right now after 2 bad months for the Winnipeg Jets. So I'll be curious to see what that means. I mean, we've been talking about a variety pack of other things. Jets are struggling at 5-on-5. Yes, today they got a couple goals from Kyle Connor and Morgan Barron, and you touched on it, Sean. Where is the defenseman in that situation? Why are you up ice? We talked about, clock management the other day with Cale Makar. Morgan Barron, again, great job showing incredible finish and explosiveness, all of those things. But much like Cale Makar needed to exit the zone, in that situation, Sean, in a 1-goal hockey game,
after you've just been scored on,
there is no excuse under the sun for you to get caught pinching in that situation if you're the Utah Mammoth. None, zero, none whatsoever. I mean, it's absolutely baffling, but then you remember what's been happening in Utah for a long time. Andre Tourné wants these guys to play the right way. They show stretches where they look like world beaters. Then they show stretches like this one where they allow a division rival to get a point because of a boneheaded decision. So anyways, I'm not trying to shift the blame or focus to other teams here, but to your point, I mean, that's not winning hockey. And the Jets have not nearly played enough winning hockey through 35 games this season. So that's got to, improve rather dramatically and quickly. And again, we've talked about, again, this is not about, calling up a kid from the Moose or whatever else, see what happens. I mean, Jets may get to that point at some point. One guy we haven't talked about, Sean, Samuel Fagemo, up to 9 goals after scoring yesterday and today against Rockford. So I'd be curious about him. I mean, he's got NHL experience, noted sniper at the American League level. No, he's not super physical. He has, he's not blazing speed, but he can skate and shoot. I wonder about a guy like that as maybe someone that, again, we talked about other guys like Walker Dewar and some of these other players, Jared Anderson Dolan. But again, I'll be very curious. We know that Kevin Cheveldayoff was sniffing around Mason Marchment going into the holiday roster freeze. That would lead me to believe he'll still be looking once that freeze has been lifted. Curious what the move looks like and what kind of shakeup is possible coming out of the break. But most importantly, they've got a lot of guys that have got to up their games and fast.
I mean, the only thing I'm thinking that can make sense with the idea of where you are right now, if you're going to make a trade and you're going to send assets out the window, a lot of people would say, why? Where they are right now, like they're in a bad spot. So if you are going to make that trade, you got to. So I think what they end up looking for is a salary dump at some point. Like that's basically, and I've said this before, it's basically what the Winnipeg Jets have always really done. So maybe they're identifying that in because they're in a situation kind of like Montreal. Like Montreal goes and they get Phil Dano, right? And they didn't lose anyone out of their roster. And now all of a sudden, I just did that game, and you're hearing that, well, when Kirby Dach comes back, now all of a sudden you've got an extra center and there's all this depth that is happening in the organization. And now there's talk in Montreal that, if he comes in and does well in that spot, now you have to trade a guy, right? Now you have to move a guy out of the lineup because you have too many guys, and then you want to bring in, but they want to use that to bring in something somewhere else. They're in a much better position than the Winnipeg Jets are right now. So you look at them and basically I don't know if you're do you do something wild, Ken? trade for Elias Pettersson, if he's potentially available,
Right.
and say, okay, maybe we can fix this guy, and then someone who you're going to have for a while, and take the risk of cleaning out the cupboard, but maybe the price isn't that steep because that player, I think he's 11 million or something.
Yeah,
like
that's
that,
a lot.
and not playing like an $11 million player. Maybe that's the kind of swing that you have to take if you're the Winnipeg Jets. But outside of that, I don't know where you go in that situation. Just a couple things here I wanted to here. Brent Polachuk says, I can understand the lack of scoring, but I don't get why they are so bad defensively. Now, it's the same reason.
We've been talking about it for the last 2 months
because they're not fast enough, and they're not defending because they're like the Winnipeg Jets were a very, very aggressive defensive team last year. So the aggression that made them a good scoring hockey team is also the aggression that made them a very stingy defensive hockey team. And they're not able to do either right now. They're too slow to do it the way they're doing. So it's not a question. It's the exact same reason for both. I've got a whole bunch of flame and comfort candidates here. First, I've got this from Matthew Hyman, who says, but people claim with Helly and that the Jets would have won games. I got a little taste of that, of the little bit of the let's call it the Hellebuck derangement syndrome, where before it was like Hellebuck was going to come in and they were going to start winning all these games that Comrie had lost for them. And now it's like, well, they would have lost this game 5-0 rather than 3-0 if Comrie was in net. It's this unprovable always, well, things would be better with Connor Hellebuck in net. And I'm not arguing that. I'm not arguing that, things haven't been a little bit better with Connor Hellebuck in net, but they have not been good to the point that the Winnipeg Jets have turned things around. It's not even close. And again, if you're leaning on that on a night where he's got an 818 save percentage and there's 2 goals on the first 3 shots, which puts the Winnipeg Jets in a hole they're digging out of the entire time. It's time to leave the whole Comrie argument way, way back in the distance. This one too, Brent Polachuk says they take penalties because they're always slow and out of position. Being slow
out of position. Well, he answered his own question there.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Tristan Rivers nails this when he says this was always the outcome. When the Jets started the season with all those wins, they were bad wins. The Jets do what they always do. They start at their best, don't improve. That's my best explanation, Ken, which kind of falls in line with what I've been saying for years. The Jets are in 4th gear coming out of training camp. They're the best version of themselves. They catch a lot of teams that are disorganized and still sleeping. I don't know what else to say, because I look at this team and, you can say what you want about, they're not getting their best effort or all these kind of things. And we should talk about, a little bit of the benching when it comes to this situation. I'm going to write that down. But it looks like that. Like the Winnipeg Jets had said themselves, we're not the best version of ourselves, or we haven't got to where we needed to get to. And that has just shown that they never did since then. So those are all the good kind of hot take. This one from Russ Lowen, who says, from what I understand, Rennie won't have watched the game again. Russ, you're not giving your boy credit. It's Christmas time. Be a little bit giving. I rushed home today and didn't even go up to see my daughter playing in the curling provincials so that I could make sure I watched the game. So honestly, Russ, I'm a little hurt. In this situation, and the only thing I can do is lash out at you with the flame and comfort hot take of the game. That's what I'm doing. It's my only recourse. So that is your KNR hot take, brought to you by Flame and Comfort, Manitoba's premier supplier of fireplaces, wood stoves, inserts, and everything hearth related. And after 50 years heating up your world, there's a new spot for Flame and Comfort at 1465 St. James Street, where you will find it is one of the most impressive showrooms in Western Canada. You don't need your hot takes to keep that warm feeling inside, folks. You can visit Flame and Comfort. They will take care of it for you. Okay, let's get to the benching. So I'll do my quick little thing here, and you can kind of dig into more on the nuts and bolts of it. When you're benching someone every single game, I don't know how, and it's someone new every single game. It just feels to me like I feel like you're missing the point. Like, I don't think it's that Vladislav Nemestikov was off tonight, or that Pearson was off the other night, or whoever was getting benched, whoever's getting sat down. I like, at some point you have to realize when you're benching someone new every night. Sorry, what's up, Ken?
Sorry, I think it was part of the stats issue. It wasn't, I mean, Vladdy only had 5 shifts, but it wasn't as
I told
wasn't
you
as long as we
no
thought.
stats there. Okay, well, okay. Regardless, I think this holds true with the amount of times we've seen people like held out and stayed.
Oh no, 8 minutes. It's still a long time. Sorry.
All these other things, and I get it. I get doing it, and I don't know what other tools you have as a coach, but I wonder how effective it is at this stage. If it's like, well, tonight it's your turn to get stapled to the bench for a little bit, and tonight it's your turn. Tonight it's your turn. I just take a look at this and I see that, players are falling out of their game, and hey, they're pros. It's their job to do this. And maybe it's as simple as this. If you're not going, you're not playing. But the not going thing, when it's someone different seemingly every single night, I don't know how effective the entire benching thing is. I think this is pointing in the direction or almost laying blame for what's going on in a place where it kind of belongs. It's the microcosm of what's happening, but it's not the overarching problem. And the overarching problem is, again, a roster that is not able to do what they are trying to do out there. I've said this before. I've talked with this. Someone made a player that I was talking to made a really great point to me about the idea of people saying, well, do the Winnipeg Jets kind of switch up on the fly? How do you switch up on the fly when you don't have practice time? Right? It was pointed out to me by a player. You don't have practice time. What kind of tweaks are you going to be making? Wide sweeping changes can you make when you don't have that time, if you feel like this isn't a situation you need? So I don't know. This is one of these things where I think it starts to get frustrating for players, and you potentially have the ability to lose players as a franchise because they're sitting there and they're getting their knuckles wrapped for not being able to do what they're not able to do and what the guy next to them is unable to do. And this is just a situation where at some point there needs to be, to your point, some changes. You talked about it, coming out of the roster freeze, maybe some kind of move is made. But at this stage, expecting different outcomes from these players other than guys having off nights because things aren't working out and the guy next to them isn't in the spot they're supposed to be, and then you're trying too hard and you're going in this. It was a great example, or a great quote that I got from the head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins for that game yesterday, Ken, right, where he said to me, sometimes when you've fallen down and your confidence isn't there, you push, but you're pushing in the wrong direction. And it just takes you further and further away from your game, and then you get lost. And I feel like that's where the Winnipeg Jets are. So do I think that they can play better as a team? I most definitely do, but I think there's a lot of times that even when they are doing the things that they're supposed to be doing, Ken, it's not getting them the results that they expect or the results that they need. And it's hard to have faith in a system that is, hey, when you execute the system and you get this, and there's a payoff, okay, now I've got something to chase. I think the Winnipeg Jets quite often are following the system to the best of their abilities, and it's not getting them anything. It's hard to stay engaged and pushing 100% forward on something that is really not even getting you the results that you need when you are executing it as good as you possibly can.
Yeah, I mean, I know where you're coming from, and you can't lean on it all the time, like cracking the whip. But for me, in this case, I disagree about the benchings losing their luster after. It hasn't happened a ton of times. Today it was 5 shifts for Nemestikov in the third. I think Niederreiter had 6, Cole Perfetti had 3. Just in this case, I know what you're saying, and I'm not saying you can do it for 10 games in a row and it not lose its luster. But for me, in the last game before the break, when you see guys aren't going that haven't been going for a while, I got no issue with the Jets cutting down their bench in the last game going into a 5-day break. For Nemestikov, I mean, he had a great interview with Paul Edmonds on the CJB pregame show about trying to stay positive. But Sean, this is a guy who's came into the season as a second-line winger, had been the second-line center. He's got 1 assist in 23 games. I mean, I know he's got lots of company, and I'm not here to dump on Nemestikov or pile on, but he hasn't been playing well enough. So I see no issue with the coach withholding some ice time. Like Kevin Biek's always says, the only thing a coach can do is withhold ice time, and he can't scratch. I mean, Ryan Huska had this great quote earlier in the year where Sharon Govich was the guy that got scratched. I mean, he could have scratched 10 players. Monty used it earlier too. I mean, you can't scratch everybody when so many players are not going. So if you sit down a couple of guys, I've got no problem with it. Again, players don't like it, nor should they like it. They should respond by playing better. I mean, this is very simple. It's a great time to reset. If you haven't had a goal in 23 games, it's a great time to reset. If you haven't had a goal in 11 games like Niederreiter, it's a great time to reset if you're Cole Perfetti. And everyone in this team needs a reset. Whether you're playing well or you're playing poorly, you got to find a way to be at your best as often as you can. And again, you can't throw out the pristine roofing wake-up call to every player and bench them every game. But in this case, I'm on the other side of the fence on this one. Not vehemently, but I do understand why it was done in this situation.
I'm coming back on that one, but
no
you
problem.
Triggered it. Like you said, it's not having the pristine roofing wake up call effect that you're suggesting. And of course, that means it's time to give North End Rick the pristine roofing wake up call at 204-981-6289. He's the guy you want down at your place for all your roofing, siding, and exterior needs. You can also call Pristine Roofing directly at 204-237-7663. Give Pristine Roofing and Siding, or give your home the pristine roofing wake up call. You will be glad you did. Okay. Here's the deal, Ken. This kind of goes to exactly what I said here. Vladislav Nemesnikov is the second line center of the Winnipeg Jets. Okay. And last year, heading into the season, they were trying in the offseason to replace him as the second line center. They weren't able to do that. Now, last year, things went in a good direction. I think, to be honest, Vladislav Nemesnikov has given far more than he ever should have been capable of giving to the Winnipeg Jets last year or the year before or the year before that. This is a guy who has dialed things up to a degree that they've gotten way more out of Vladislav Nemesnikov than they ever could have expected. Part of that is because the Jets system was ironclad for so long. Those players within that system look a lot like their ceiling looks a lot higher than what it typically is. But when your system is not working, players start to kind of get brought down to the level of their skill and where it's at. And this is my point. Kevin Cheveldayoff has failed to get that second line center and lock them down for a long time. So it's fallen to Vladislav Nemesnikov to be the guy who steps into that role in the meantime. So here, Vladislav Nemesnikov, in my mind, to a degree, you look at this and you think Vladislav Nemesnikov is being punished because he's not a second line center in the NHL. Very few teams in the league would he be the second line center on. And so here he's in a situation where he's being asked to do far more than than his skill set would suggest he's capable of doing. And I think that comes with frustration sometime. And instead of being in a situation where you're looking here saying, well, he's not playing that well, let's punish him. Maybe we should get this guy slotted into the spot in the lineup that he should be in. And I know they don't have the guys to do it right now, but it's, again, to me, I think it's a roster failing, a failing to address the roster that is putting guys not in opportunities to succeed, but opportunities to fail. And they're failing, and then they're getting benched because they are failing. And I think it's just I don't think that's good for morale. I don't think it's good for belief, most importantly. If you're in a situation where you're like, you know what, I'm kind of doing all I can and I'm still getting benched out of this, boy, oh boy, I don't know how that leads to a situation where guys are climbing out of something and becoming above what they're capable of becoming.
I mean, he had 6 goals in 12 games, which again, I agree is above his stead, Sean, but quarter season without a goal, getting often top 6 minutes. I don't think that I'm with you. He should be slotted properly, either put him on the third line or the fourth line. But the issue is the Jets haven't had a ton of better options. So again, that's
what I just said.
It's fine. But yeah, but you also can't say, I mean, he showed that he can do it. He literally had 6 goals in 12 games this year. Again, no one was expecting him to keep that pace, but no one was also expecting him to go from 6 and 12 to 0 and 23. I mean, that's a very big fall off.
To the point that was made
Sean,
earlier on.
The other thing too, Nemesnikov's turned the puck over way more than normal. I love the way that he plays. He's a spark plug guy. You can play him anywhere. He's not playing Vlad Nemesnikov hockey. He was talking about his brother, Max, who's playing in college now. Vlad is at his best when he's ratting it up, when he's getting involved physically. That has not been happening, Sean. That is on him as a player. Now, I understand why it would not be happening if you're not playing confident hockey, but if you're not scoring, you have to contribute in other ways. He knows that. He's done it in the past, and he needs to do it again.
this entire team is defending on its heels, so they're not getting up ice the way that they did. You can't be a rat if you can't get into the play, and the Winnipeg Jets are always behind the play. It's hard.
His
to
skating's
be a
not an
rat.
issue for Vlad. Other players on the team are struggling with their skating. Vlad is a good skater.
Vlad's a good skater, but he's also on a line full of guys that are on their heels when they're defending. You don't get to jump up into the play. You don't get that extra step that they had last year. This is a team playing slow. When the team is playing slow, you're disjointed if one guy's up and ahead of everybody, and he can't jump up into the play and get ahead of everybody because it's always a 5-alarm fire in their own zone, and they're trying to defend, and they're barely holding on. Like the Winnipeg Jets last year, from their red line, from their goal line all the way down the ice, played on their toes and crammed it down your throat. Now they're playing on their heels. And so if you're a player playing on your heels, you're not going to be as fast as you are. Everyone's getting exposed this year. We talked about it. Sandberg isn't quite the defenseman that he was last year. I can't bring in Logan Stanley because Logan Stanley has had an unbelievable year and had another great opportunity tonight. And the top line is the top line. The top line is always able to do what they were doing. But everywhere else in the lineup, we're seeing guys who aren't having great years, and they're not having great years because they don't have the giant shield of of that system working in front of them, and it slows them down. It puts them in worse positions. It puts them in more positions to make mistakes. So I again, this is a whole bunch of players are suddenly not playing their best, and they're getting benched because of it. And my idea is that this is bigger than the individual player. It's an overarching thing that is affecting all of these guys. And when you're giving it to Vladislav Domestikov because you're saying, boy, oh boy, you sure aren't playing like a second line center. I don't think he ever should have been a second line center. It was good that he did and filled in that role, but the inability for the Jets to move in a guy who is what a traditional second line center. And put it this way, if Vladislav Domestikov was a true to form NHL second line center, he would not be okay being on a team where he got moved out of that position and sent to the fourth line wing. Like Vladislav Domestikov goes wherever you tell him to go because he's a utility player and he knows it. Utility players don't complain about those kind of things. So to be on top of Cole Perfetti because he can't score now because Nikolai Ehlers isn't there anymore, and the guy who opened up so much ice for everybody isn't there. The degree of difficulty just went up, and Cole's is struggling with it. The degree of difficulty went up for Vlad Domestikov in a position he probably never should have been in the first place. And I'm just saying, I think the benchings are a further sign of the system not working, not individual players checking out. They're getting the raw end of this, and right now it's kind of falling at their feet when things should be addressed within that roster to try and slot guys into better spots to better succeed. That's their job. It's the job of the management, job of the coaching staff to put players in a situation to succeed. I empathize with Scott Arniel because I don't think he has the horses to get this team to play the game that he wants to play. At some point, there's got to be an addressing, and you touched on it, we're just keep coming back on it, to getting him the players that he can put in spots like that so that he can put Vladislav Domestikov and Cole Perfetti and Pearson or whoever else into better spots to succeed rather than putting them on their butts on the bench.
Totally fine. I'm just like, I need Vladdy to get to the blue paint a bit more. That's when you know he's at his best. He's mixing things up, and I haven't seen enough of that lately. But again, he's got lots of company. I'm not trying to just single him out. I'm just saying that, for a guy that had almost 40 points last year, and a lot of those were, yes, Ehlers was on his line and Perfetti was rolling. I get it. He's one of many players that needs to be better, and he knows it. I mean, this is not a challenging area, but I also know where you're coming from. It's totally fine.
Yeah. Well, guys need to score more. Like you're saying.
Let's talk about Lowry.
Yeah, we will. I just want to shout out that you can score a great rate with Cambrian Credit Union. Getting a mortgage doesn't have to throw you off your game. While you focus on home sweet home, our friends at Team Cambrian Credit Union take care of the mortgage part with their low rates. Whether you're looking for a new home, renewing, or making the switch, Cambrian is your mortgage MVP. They can help make the next season of your mortgage path easier and help save you money. Now that is what we call a win. Head to cambrian.mb.ca/rates for more. And Ken, you want to give Sweet Lou a shout out?
Yes, sir. For folks who have realty needs you'd like to have met during the holiday season, contact our main man, Lou Ferlin at Royal LePage Dynamic Realty, 204-791-9971, or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@louferlin.ca. That's Lou at LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Ferlin, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of the community, including this podcast.
Okay, Ken, you wanted to get to Lowry. Take it away.
Yeah, a couple quick things. Again, we're talking about frustrated players and guys who want to do more or trying to do more. Adam's at the top of the list here. I mean, he's a guy that holds himself to a high standard. In a 1-goal overtime game, he was on the ice for an even strength goal against. In regulation, yes, I think he was on the ice with Pearson and Barron also. So even there, we know in overtime what happens, and a lot of people going wild. I mean. Scott O'Neill explained it afterward in terms of the strategy. He had leaned heavily. I think Scheifele and Connor and those guys had 10 or 11 shifts in the third. I think he just wanted to give them a little extra time. He wanted them on that second shift. I mean, personally, we know that Scott O'Neill generally starts with them. So I understand the folks that want that. He thought he would win the draw, have a good shift. They would spin cycle. Scheifele would come on. Again, in terms of what happened, we just spent the last 10 minutes talking about guys trying to do things or trying to make some things happen when it's not going well. Adam Lowry knows, he's known as long as he's played hockey. In that scenario, in a 3-on-3 especially, you got to have the man or the puck in that situation. He got neither. Dylan Guenther got by him, set up Clayton Keller, bar down, great play. Nobody felt worse about that than Lowry, and not surprisingly, took accountability after the game and pointed the finger squarely at himself, even though we know it's a team game and all of those things. So good on him for taking accountability. Again, it's at full speed and in slow motion on TV from the coach. Oh, how could that happen? I mean, Dylan Guenther's a shifty player. I mean, if Adam Lowry catches him, it's a 2-on-1 the other way. Maybe the Jets score. That's not what happened, though. They got scored on. He's pissed off about it. He's going to be chewing on it on the plane ride home. He's going to try to take a break and come back. Because, again, Adam Lowry knew this was going to be a challenging thing to come back of from his hip. Not feeling full speed yet, doing his best to get his strength up and his speed up. Today didn't go well for him on that play. He's upset about it. But, again, this is a guy who's going to come out of the break and give you every single thing that he has. That doesn't mean you erase the mistakes from today. But, again, Adam Lowry doesn't need anybody to pile on him. He's more mad at himself than anyone could dump upon him. Anyways, that's sort of just a quick insight on the captain, I guess. Or what did you see in the game from him?
I mean, I like the accountability that he showed in the beginning. I think it's a little bit to what I talked about in the last podcast that we had. Like, it was a reality check, right? And it's funny that, at this stage, the biggest reality check we seem to be getting is from the players in the dressing room, right? Like, I remember there was a question asked way back, and this seems like a long time ago, but the Jets had ended up below the playoff line. And one of the reporters had asked, Dylan DeMello, like, oh, do you think this is a raw deal? Do you think your record represents who you are? And it was like, of course it does, right? Like, have you been watching this team? They're playing terrible hockey, and now at some point I had thought, because we've seen that from Jets players in the past, there was definitely an era of time where the Jets players would have just gone and told you everything was fine in that situation. I like the honesty from Dylan DeMello in that moment. He's like, I think we're right where we're supposed to be and right where we've earned being, right? And That's where the Winnipeg Jets find themselves right now. I think it's refreshing to hear in the broadcasts honest talk about the Winnipeg Jets and where they are, where they find themselves, how they're playing, right? Instead of this incessant kind of, they're just about to turn the corner, rhetoric that we've been hearing for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks now. So to me, the honesty is maybe the Jets have a better chance of handling this, and they're probably already there in the dressing room, Ken. But if the idea is like I had done on this podcast a long time ago, let's scrap the idea we're just a tweak away from being the President's Trophy winning team that we were last year again, and realize where they are. And this is a dogfight that we are in now to be a team that, never mind, doesn't make the playoffs, but like ends up being one of the bottom dwelling teams and we've heard this before. Mark Chipman has talked about the idea of, well, sometimes you don't rebuild because sometimes teams rebuild and they never kind of get back up. Well, sometimes when you fall flat on your face and you've got a team, even if you think it's a really good team, and then they fall and they kind of get redefined in that situation. Like, if you remember, Rick Bowness walked in and said, it's important we as the Jets change things and turn things around right now, give a shock to the system so that we don't become a miss the playoffs team that falls into that. Whether or not, you tear down or do different things, where the Jets are right now, how they're unable to get consistency. You could go and let's say they go and they tweak all the different things that they may have, if it's the speed issue, they bring in some speed, they do all this kind of stuff in the offseason. If this year continues going like it's going and they crash out, if they did all those things, you're still at risk of this team having fallen into the mindset of being that team that's always kind of below the playoff line. You want to see a perfect example of it? The Pittsburgh Penguins went from being the best team in the NHL for a really long time, and then they started kind of hovering around 8th, and then they fell below 8th, and they've never been able to get back over that. And even with a hot start this year, that's a team that can't kind of shake that mindset, and their belief is thin and they're a little bit fragile. Like, this is what you may be creating for the Winnipeg Jets this year. It's a dangerous situation. So the idea of not doing this, I'm just peeking around the corner and we're about to be straight up to the top of the standings and being like, this is bad. We're not good enough. We need to do more of this. We're not playing good hockey. We are who we are, and who we are right now is a team 1 point out of the basement in the NHL. Some talk like that, I think, is like, to me, that's the most important thing Adam Lowry did today, was face the public and say the things that I was suggesting that the organization needs to be saying more to the public right now in this situation. Either way, got you covered on the ice. Well, not got you covered, but he's doing it on the ice in situations like that. He's doing it off the ice. He's doing it in the media. He's getting things done all around, just like Myers Drugs gets everything done for you all around the city because they deliver anywhere in the city. So give them a call if you have any pharmaceutical needs, any health food needs, any supplemental needs. They're the ones you want to give a call to take care of things. All right, Kenny, Johnston Group got you covered. You got anything?
Yeah, there sure were not a lot of good candidates here, but hate to sound like a broken record, but Dylan DeMello diving across to block a shot was the best thing that I can come up with. Sean, I don't know if you had anything separate, but that's what I was in the third period, I thought.
That'll be good for me. That's good enough for me. That is our Kenny and Renny Johnston Group. The Kenny and Renny OGs got you covered play of the game. Do you run a small business in Canada? Look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more. And that brings us to our hashtag the keg save of the game. What do you got, Ken?
Yeah, I think the sequence there was a Nick Schmaltz 1T from the slot and a Dylan Gunther comeback rebound attempt for Hellebuck. So Carol Vmelka, a really good save on Morrissey, honorable mention, but I think that was the sequence for Hellebuck, the two saves that I'm going to go with for the keg save. The saves of the game today.
I'm not going to argue with either of those. So that is your hashtag the keg saves of the game. Doesn't matter what we think, though. Matters what you think. Share with us your honest opinion on the hashtag keg save of the game, and you'll be automatically entered to win a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. And the winner from our last show, that would be Don Dawson. Don, you know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name. Send me an email. I'll have the fine folks at the keg send you a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. Ken, we've got some time here if you wanted some free space on the bingo card kind of thing to talk about. Otherwise, I've got some stuff I can throw at you.
And a couple quick shout-outs for the Manitoba kids. By the time we come back on the 27th, Team Canada will have played its first games already. Looks like with the news that Berkeley Catton and Sam Dickinson will not be loaned to Team Canada, that's good news for a couple of Manitoba kids, Carson Carrolls from Cypress River and Carter Bear West St. Paul / Peguis First Nation. Both looks like the Manitoba kids are going to make it. I think Bear might start as the 13th forward, but and Carroll's good young player. I know Carter had a great job getting identified by the Detroit Red Wings as a first rounder. Carrolls is a potential top 5 pick. I mean, our pals Jason Bukala and Sam Cosentino both really high on him. 2 Western League kids, so some exciting news for them as we get close to the event, which will be happening in St. Paul, Minnesota. It'll be a great venue, and 2 Jets prospects suiting up there with Sasha Boumediene and Boumediene. Oh man, I owe you 10. Boumediene, man. Okay.
It was on this program. It was on this podcast.
I said Bo. Why didn't I say Boo? Come on.
Boumediene. Yeah.
All right. And Alphonse Frey is the other guy, defenseman playing for Team Sweden. Books was at the game last night and gave me a quick scouting report on both of them. I thought for the most part, both of them looked solid in the game, steady. Sweden will be one of the favorites in the event.
Yes, I've been getting a real good scouting report on Carson Carrolls for a long time because I always bring up my buddy Dwighty, who's coaching the Niverville Nighthawks and doing a phenomenal job of it. His son, Benson Hurst, who I've talked about here before, who is a defenseman with the Moose Jaw Warriors, went out to the Pilot Mound Hockey Academy when he was 13 years old, left home. And one of the reasons, and Dwighty's a smart guy, I've always said this before, went out there because Carson Carrolls was going to be playing in that program. And if I remember correctly, they didn't have a lot of D-men on that team, which basically meant Benson got to play with Carson as his D partner for pretty much the entirety of the year, and they were playing ridiculous amounts of game time. So it was just logging hockey in minutes and minutes and minutes. And when you get beside those guys who are like Ken, if you're going top 5 as a defenseman, you are an extremely, extremely good hockey player. Like you brought up Sam Dickinson, a player who's playing with the San Jose Sharks, and he went 10th overall and was a phenomenal defenseman. So Carson Carrolls, the idea of him going top 5 overall, my buddy Dwight was telling me about him right off the start. That was fascinating to hear about him, to see him kind of rise and make his way to Prince George. Where I have family and know a little bit about that organization. It's been fun to watch him do that. And if you're making Team Canada as an underage defenseman, that's good. Like you are
a company, man. That's elite company.
Yes, I mean, think of some of them. I think it was Jay Bowmeister's one of the few ones who made it at 16, if I remember correctly. Ken, do you remember that?
Makar made it as a 17, but he was just as a power play, like 7th D-man, I thought, right?
Exactly, yeah. So he was kind of spare part. So, I mean, making Team Canada as a defenseman at 17 is the same kind of rules apply, which is why what Matthew Schaefer is doing in New York is absolutely phenomenal, because you're not supposed to be doing that as an 18-year-old defenseman. Even, the great players like the Quinn Hughes, the great defensemen, the Cale Makars, they usually come into the league at 19 or 20 or something like that. And even when they hit, Lane Hudson, even when they hit out of the gate, they're doing it at 19 or 20 after a little bit more time either in the CHL level or the NCAA level. What Schaefer is doing is absolutely outstanding. Carroll's clearly not in that same kind of echelon, given that Matthew Schaefer was, a consensus first overall pick. And we had guys like Books and Sammy on here singing his praises long before that. He's turned into everything they would expect, but Carson Carrolls not too far behind that if he's going to be playing as a 17-year-old on that team. Congratulations to him. Some great Manitoba content there.
We're not the only people that are shouting out our own work here. Scott Wheeler has an excellent piece in The Athletic on Carrolls with some great background, and I'll certainly be writing more about Carson as we get rolling here closer to draft time.
I had thought I was going to be there, Ken. I was going to be getting switched because I'm Sportsnet's guy for covering news for anything to do with the Olympics. On the 31st, Hockey Canada is going to be announcing Team Canada's roster. That's the same Wednesday night hockey game.
Oh, Detroit.
Winnipeg Jets will be playing in Detroit. I was going to be moved to be in St. Paul at that time to cover off that announcement. That's not happening. Kyle Bukauskas is going to be there now. So I will remain in Detroit for New Year's. But it would have been, I always love that tournament. Always love watching a little bit of it when I can get there. And I think it'll probably be well attended in St. Paul. Yeah, it would have been good to get back to that, but it's going to be good to be watching the Detroit Red Wings and the Winnipeg Jets do that before then. And before that, we've got on Hockey Night in Canada next Saturday, the Winnipeg Jets and the red hot Minnesota Wild, who were tamed somewhat tonight by the Colorado Avalanche. Regardless, huge game for the Winnipeg Jets coming out of this, but they do have the Christmas break to try and get things together, as do all of you. And we expect you to get it together, you folks out there. And in doing so, I hope you all have the merriest of Christmases and the happiest of holidays. I say that not to be, I hope it's not taken that way. I never think wishing someone a Merry Christmas is divisive. I like to cover it off with happy holidays. Our family celebrates Christmas. It's just, in my opinion, my chance to give well wishes and hopeful wishes to everybody out there. I hope it's taken that way because we hope that you have the happiest of holidays, folks.
And then quickly, thinking of Marshall and Elena Patterson, Elena going in for surgery on Monday here. So thoughts are with you folks out in California.
You bet. Okay, that's it for us. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to everybody out there. It means a ton to us that you're always along for the ride as you were here today. And we like to see that continuing through the Christmas season and into the new year. Thank you so much. Before we do go, if you appreciate the conversations happening in this space, we implore you to appreciate the contributions by our sponsors who fight to keep the conversation going in this space. For us, that's Jim Pattison Toyota on Regent, Pristine Roofing, Vittorio Rossi, Cambrian Credit Union, Sweet Lou Furlan, Flame and Comfort, Myers Drugs, the Johnston Group, the Kenny and Renny OGs, and of course the Keg. Thank you to them. Thank you to all of you, and to all a good night. Bye-bye.